We tend to think of conflict as, a physical clash, a direct confrontation. But what if the most important battles, what if they aren't fought on some field, but in the quiet, silent spaces of our own minds? Turns out, there's a real art to mastering these unseen forces, and it completely redefines what it even means to win.
Okay, that sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? I mean, we're taught that conflict is all about confrontation, about force meeting force. So how can the greatest victory require no violence at all? What if the most powerful move you can make is the one that stops the fight before it even has a chance to start?
So how do we even begin to answer that? Well, it all comes down to shifting our perspective. We've got to look away from the dramatic clash of swords and all that, and instead zoom in on the quiet, thoughtful moments, the planning that happens long before anyone makes a single move.
The battle before the battle. Yeah, victory is decided before it even begins. And this brings us to a really core idea, the actual physical fight. That's just the last scene of a play that's already been written. You see, real victory isn't something you grab in the heat of the moment. No, it's forged way before that, in the world of pure strategy and preparation.
So what does that really mean, that the outcome is decided in the mind? It means the number one battlefield isn't some patch of ground. It's not a physical place at all. It's the internal landscape of the strategic mind. It's right there, through careful thought and calculation, that you literally create the conditions for success.
There's actually a name for this process, laying plans. And I want you to picture this. Don't think of a general on a horse, charging into battle. Instead, imagine them in a quiet, almost sacred space, a temple. Away from all the chaos, they're just there, weighing every single factor, assessing every possibility, and basically architecting the victory before a single soldier even moves.
So what are these big calculations based on? Well, it all boils down to 5 constant factors. First up, you've got moral harmony. That's about everyone, from the leader to the people, being on the same page. Then there's heaven, which is really about understanding the things you can't control, like timing and the seasons. Third is earth, knowing the physical terrain inside and out. Fourth, the commander themselves, their wisdom, their courage, their character. And finally, method and discipline, the raw organizational strength of your side. The idea is, whoever gets these 5 factors right, that's who's gonna win.
Okay, so this whole laying plans thing isn't just some abstract idea. It actually breaks down into 3 key fields of knowledge. You could call it the anatomy of advantage.
Now, you've probably heard this famous line before, and it really gets at the first 2 big fields of knowledge. The formula sounds simple, right? But the depth there is just immense. We're not just talking about knowing facts and figures. This is about a deep, fundamental understanding of character, both your own and your opponent's.
And this is where we see a really critical difference. Knowing yourself, that's your defense. It's the source of your strength, how you make yourself into a fortress that's basically impossible to defeat. But knowing the other person, well, that's the source of your attack. Understanding their weaknesses, their blind spots, that's what shows you the perfect opportunity to make your move. Okay, so the third piece of the puzzle is knowing the conditions. You and your opponent, you're not just floating in a vacuum, right? You have to get the unchangeable realities you're both dealing with, the terrain, the timing. Think of it like this. These are the rules of the chessboard that you're playing on. You can't change them, so you'd better understand them. So once you have that full picture, you know yourself, you know your opponent, and you know the conditions, then you can start to act. And the core principle of that action, it's all based on deception. It's about controlling what they see, shaping their reality. And this art of misdirection is all about playing with perception. When you're able to attack, you make it seem like you're unable. When you're using your forces, you look completely inactive. When you're right there, you make them think you're miles away. And when you're far off, you make them think you're right on their doorstep. You can even pretend there's chaos and disorder on your side just to lure them into a trap.
The discipline of mind. For all this talk about external strategy, the deception, the planning, the calculations, none of it means anything without a centered, disciplined mind at the very core. The leader is called the bulwark of the state. Just think about that image, a single protective wall that decides everything.
And that metaphor is so powerful, isn't it? If that wall, that bulwark, is solid everywhere, the state will be strong. But if it's defective, if there's a crack, the whole state will be weak. Any flaw in the leader's character, a lack of wisdom or courage, or just clarity, it's like a crack in that wall. The strength of the whole group is really just a reflection of the strength of its leader.
And this principle of responsibility is just absolute. A leader has to make sure their orders are crystal clear, no question. If they are clear and people still disobey, then the fault isn't with them, it's with their officers. It's a chain of responsibility, and there's just zero room for ambiguity. It's pretty simple, really. When a leader's mind is clear, that clarity just flows down through the entire organization. Indecision? Gone. And for everyone else, discipline becomes so ingrained that it's practically an instinct. That's where a truly effective force comes from.
Mastering the unseen. So let's bring this all back to where we started, that whole idea of winning without ever fighting. I think now we can see that this isn't some passive wait-and-see kind of thing. No, it's the result of actively mastering all these unseen forces, the planning, the knowledge, the deception, and of course, the internal discipline.
And get this, for a master strategist, the first goal isn't even winning. It's making yourself invincible. It's about using self-knowledge and deep, deep preparation to build a foundation so solid that defeat isn't even on the table anymore. Real security, then, comes from what you do. It's in your hands, not waiting for your opponent to mess up.
And right here, this is the key. This unlocks the whole philosophy. The physical fight isn't a contest to see who wins. It's just confirmation. It's the rubber stamp on a result that's already been decided in the mind. A truly wise leader only engages when the math is done and they already know the outcome.
I mean, that just lays it out perfectly. That's the fundamental difference, right there. One person fights from a position where victory is already guaranteed. The other one just fights and hopes they can figure out a way to win along the way. One is acting from certainty, and the other is just rolling the dice.
So that brings us to one final, much deeper thought. If this kind of strategic mastery is really possible, what's the ultimate goal? What's the end game? Maybe true power isn't about being the best at winning fights. Maybe it's about understanding the world so deeply, so completely, that you can actually shape things to make the fight itself totally unnecessary.